County Board proceedings will now come to order. Would the members please push their attend buttons, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Supervisor Locke with the invocation.
As we begin this meeting, we remember to thank our Creator for all that we are and all that we have. Please help to guide us through the tough decisions we have to make this evening. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Amen.
Amen.
I never said Thanksgiving. Can you come over and help me? Come over and help me.
Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the approval of this evening's agenda.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, now is the time is allowed for people to express their opinion on anything on the agenda this evening. But I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes. So a lot of this has been hashed over time and time again. The racetrack isn't on the agenda this evening. It's the lease for Life Fest, so you have to keep that in mind when you get up to talk. So is there anybody that would like to express their opinion on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance to talk. Yes. Get up to the microphone there and state your name.
Hi, I'm Amy Albright from the Oshkosh Convention and Visitors Bureau. Just speaking on behalf of Life Fest and economic impact in Winnebago County. In 2016, over 90,000 people attended Life Fest, which created well over $5 million in economic impact in Winnebago County. Next to AirVenture, Life Fest is the largest revenue-generating event in our county. If a stage is built in the grandstand, it will help us solidify this important economic driver for at least 10 years, equaling $50 million or more for our county. Along with other large events that will desire this venue, large events will also desire this venue. Wisconsin Bike Week and other large concerts would be examples of potential new events to our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Yes. Just state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Mark Kilderman, and I'm actually from Brownsville, Wisconsin. But I'm here to speak in behalf of the 4,500 people that signed our petition to decriminalize marijuana in Oshkosh and urge you to consider reducing the penalty for 10 grams of marijuana down to a $100 fine in the resolution. I think this is going to come in front of you tonight, the advisory referendum. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Damo, 455 Zarling Avenue in Oshkosh. I'm here also to talk about the lease with Life Fest. And first I want to say I appreciate Life Fest and what they bring into the county. They bring a lot, and it really is amazing. However, we're talking about a 10-year lease, and we need to realize how amazingly fast this organization is growing. They're going to outgrow that space even within 10 years. And then we're left with what? And I appreciate what they do, and I appreciate what they're giving to young kids and families to come to a great event. And I am fully on building them a stage, just not in this spot. There has to be a compromise. We are beginning to see fatigue as far as concerts goes. I do the concessions at Waterfest every week, and it's harder and harder to pack that stage because there is the Hurt Arena now that's going to be doing events. There is the Leach Amphitheater. There is Ford Grounds. There are so many events and festivals that outside of Life Fest, the stage is not going to make you the money you're thinking. And if you think it's going to be $180,000 to get rid of that soil, I mean, look at the Buckstaff building. This soil is contaminated too, your numbers are way off. That's going to be a lot more expensive to do that. So I urge you to sign something to give them the land that they need to build this stage and keep Life Fest here, but just not at that racetrack. I feel that we have had this conversation before and we have rehashed a lot of this, and I appreciate you guys showing up today, you know, to speak your turn, because we kind of missed you the last three. And I would urge you to please make the same decision you made before, find a compromise. I know I'm here for the racetrack and not for Impact Motorsports, and I feel that they dropped the ball. There are other promoters that are willing to pay what you guys need for the racetrack, and you should get it because the county shouldn't lose money on this. I think I'm close to my 3 minutes, so I hope that some of those promoters stand up and speak tonight, and I hope we can find a compromise for everybody. I know a lot of people are blaming me for losing a golf course, but this situation is vastly different. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Yes, state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Mark Nyland, and my address is 1995 Walnut Street here in Oshkosh. Thank you for the opportunity to address all of you tonight. I want to say first and foremost, as a citizen, I've attended Life Fest for the last 13 years. It's an incredible event that any community in this state would be pleased to have in their backyard. I attend many concerts outside of Oshkosh, and I can tell you this is by far the most well-managed and executed concert and event series that you will find anywhere in Wisconsin. I want to state that I'm not trying to disagree with other speakers, but ultimately I do travel outside of the area to see acts that have performed at Life Fest. Individuals like Matthew West, Newsboys, household names in the Christian music scene who have been launched through Life Fest. We will be able to fill many seats. There are many Christian music followers, myself being one of them. I have hundreds of other friends who would love to have been here tonight to share that same message. I urge you to please provide this opportunity. Life Fest brings greatness to our community. I can tell you that firsthand, being on the grounds. People's impressions are shaped of our community by their attending this 5-day event. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening?
My name is Ron Pollock. I'm from 808 West 10th in the city of Oshkosh. Just wanted to say thank you for hearing us and thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. Just a couple of things. I could speak about the racetrack and I could go on, and most of us here could. But what I'd like to say tonight is that I have no problem with Life Fest. I understand that they do bring some money to the community. I understand that they do their part in giving kids a place to be and giving people a place to celebrate. But on the other hand, I do have a problem with a lot of the stuff that's in these contracts, and I've read it for every one of them. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in here. There's a lot of numbers being jostled around, and there's a lot of things that are being given away. I don't think that's been done to very many people who've leased or rented the racetrack or rented the area at the county fairgrounds. The other thing I'd like to address is that the last time we were all here and we addressed you, we asked for one thing. We asked for you and your cooperation to help us let the racetrack and Life Fest coexist in one place. I'm here to ask for that again. As a taxpayer of this county, I think that we paid for that thing once before, and I'd like to see it stay. I'd like to see us work together to make this entire county profitable and not put all of our eggs in one basket. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance.
Hey, thank you for listening. Brady Baldry, 5945 Springbrook Road, Amro, Wisconsin. I personally have been talking to Mr. Ellis. Although whatever is going on, I don't know, sorry, I'm getting a little nervous here, but we are a group of us, my family and I, there's 8 of us, we're looking to promote the racetrack if it does become available again. We found a I don't want to go into too much into the racetrack, but anyway, the last meeting where this got voted down, you guys were instructed to look for other land to purchase. I'm just curious where that lies. Has anything been done with that? I see there's a for lease sign on the area strictly directly to the south of the
This
BMX
isn't
track.
about the racetrack, it's about Life Fest. Sorry. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the agenda, anything on the agenda? Now is your time, go ahead. State your name and address.
Yes, I am Jeff Wasinski. I live on Indian Shores Road in Winnie County. I'm a little concerned on the fact that I've been to Life Fest, appreciate it. It's a heck of an opportunity for Oshkosh to keep it. I believe we should keep it. The problem I do have is that we can't utilize this facility for more than one 5-day event. If we ran this as a business, like most of us sitting over here do and have to do, we would utilize this facility to expand it to not only cover Life Fest, but also to cover other opportunities out there, racetrack being one of them. I do believe if we put our minds together, we can make this happen so it's fruitful for everyone. Look at what we're trying to do here. Make this whole area where the racetrack currently sits, make it for Life Fest for a 5-day event. Is that really in any taxpayer's best interest? I don't believe that. And honestly, I'm rather appalled that we're throwing the same question out, just fluffing it up a little bit. We already voted the racetrack should stay, but now we're voting that, we're covering that up and saying for Life Fest to be here for 10 years. Life Fest, I hope they are here 10 years. Reality is they're growing at a rate that may not be the situation. I hope it is. I hope everybody can make money out at that area. But I do feel we need to really closely look at this and make some other sense out of this than a 5-day event. I am one of the individuals that is working with Brady Baldry and his family to try to promote to keep the track here. And I will do everything I can. We are willing to take the contract as it stands today and run with that. You haven't heard that in the past, but it is the option that's on the table. So I ask all of you, please step up to the plate, make this work for everybody, not a 5-day event. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
Thank you. My name is Jay Schumerth, 9 Strawberry Lane in Appleton. I'm a board member for Life Promotions. I'd like to read a prepared statement on behalf of Life Promotions. Life Fest is thankful for our 19-year partnership with Winnebago County. We have hosted Life Fest at Sunnyview Expo Center since 1999. Our purpose is to celebrate the love of Jesus and connect faith communities from all denominations. This Party with a Purpose is one of the largest Christian music festivals in the nation. Last year was our biggest year yet, with over 23,000 people in attendance each day. Since our humble beginnings, our attendance has grown 300%. Annually, we're growing at a 5 to 10% rate, which has been counter to what most music festivals are seeing. We feel the support of local businesses and the community as we continue to improve the experience and bring exceptional music to the Life Fest stage. According to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, who you heard from, Life Fest brings approximately $5.2 million annually into the local economy. As we look to the future, we hope to keep Life Fest in Oshkosh at Sunnyview. However, our projected growth, we are simply not able to commit to a long-term lease with the county. Even with conservative growth projections, we foresee the event outgrowing the facility as it exists right now in 3 to 5 years. With this uncertainty, we are only able to commit one-year lease extension so we can keep our options open for future growth and expansion of Life Fest. However, if the county board is not able to find an organization to lease the track for racing, we would like to build a permanent stage in the grandstand complex. This will allow us to move our main stage and seating area and open up 7 acres to accommodate the future growth projections. With this commitment by the county, Life Fest would be ready to sign a 10-year lease to stay at Sunnyview and erect, in partnership with the county, a multi-use permanent stage. The stage would not only benefit Life Fest and allow for growth, but it would also allow the county to attract other revenue-generating events, other rentals of Sunnyview Expo, and more economic development into Oshkosh and Winnebago County. We hope you agree to this being in the county's best interest as you make your vote this evening. Respectfully, Life Promotions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance to talk. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance to talk.
My name is Jeff Lemish, 2230 Plymouth Street. I'm not here talking as a promoter. I am talking as a citizen of Winnebago County. I too believe that Life Fest brings a lot to the community. I also believe the racetrack does. I do believe there is a way to make both venues successful out there. I have told you in the past, and I'll tell you again now, it doesn't matter what happens out there, they both can coexist. I do believe that. It's a quality of life. People have a quality of life, whether it's to go to Life Fest, whether it's go to the races. I'm not talking about races, sorry about that, but it's on the racetrack. They both can coexist. We've been working against each other these past couple of years. Why can't we work together and make this happen? I commend Steve Bender for saying at the October Parks meeting, regardless of the result of the vote, he thinks they should require more land for expansion. I think we need to do that, not only for the expansion of Life Fest, but for other venues. You can keep Life Fest and the racetrack. They work together. We've worked together for the last 19 years. Who's to say it can't work in the future? I find it in my heart that we can work together to make a solution so both can exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening?
Hey guys, Wes Lungwitz, 612 Kirkwood Drive in Oshkosh. Thanks for the time. So I was here last time. I don't want to get into the exact same speech, but if we're talking about what's best for the community, the different events that we can offer for members of the community, again, I have nothing against Life Fest. I grew up in a Christian household. We go to church now. I think it's a great event. I think that we can make something work for everybody. We're talking about what's best for everybody, and can we make something that works? Can we offer more options for people? I talked about my kids last time. I mean, they love the racetrack. They go there every Friday. We're not going to take them to a concert. You know, they're little. They love racing. They love helping me work on the car. You know, my little guy, I think he can be an engineer one day. I just hate to lose that. I know we're all smart people. I know that there's something that can be worked out, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of reasons given why it has to be in that same spot, but I just don't believe it. I know that there's something here. What we wanted last time was more promoters to step up, you know, some options for the racetrack. We have that. I mean, if you don't know the Baldrys and Mr. Wazinski, first of all, those two beat me all over that racetrack this last summer, but I respect that. But the Baldrys, you know, they're a legendary racing family in this area. So these are real people that understand racetracks. They understand how to run them. You know, we have some other options here. You know, obviously Jeff and Larry are interested as well. There's people that are going to pay what has been asked that you want to pay for that land, and I know that there's an option here, guys. There's something that can be done.
You're not talking about Life Fest, you're talking about racing.
He mentioned Life Fest and talked about Life Fest, so I'll let it go.
That's the end of my time. I think
Finish
that
your
is
talk.
relevant. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? State your name and address, please.
Oh, my name is Terry Baldry. I live at 2791 Village Lane. I just wanted everybody to know that I think everybody can understand that this whole thing can work together. If you need more land or whatever you need, I just think that there's a way to work together to do all this. And on your numbers here, your fiscal note, it's got 410 anticipated 10-year rent, and you expect to take in 285. It has nothing to, and it says nothing about the $280,000 that you would take in for the racetrack. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda? Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? That, go ahead.
Dennis Payne, 145 Northwest Haven Drive in Oshkosh. I'd like to thank yous for being on the county board. I was once in your spot, and I've always had this sense that the county board would do the right thing. That's why I haven't spoke at a lot of these. But the thing is, you're going to make a decision tonight that's going to have a long-lasting effect, longer than 10 years. You know, I commend you as what you did with the airport. You seen the right thing, you did the right thing. Now, tonight, you need to do the right thing with the racetrack. And maybe ask LifeFest, how many acres do we have to buy for them to sign a 20-year contract? There's always 6 ways to do everything. And we could get into the numbers and the things that don't add up and all of that. You know, but it's your job to do the right thing. And the right thing is, and you heard him tonight, he said they're willing to go on a year-to-year basis. So what is the big rush to do this? Let's find the solution. That's why we elect you people, is for solutions. So let's find that solution. I hope you do the right thing. Otherwise, it's a sad day for Oshkosh and Winnebago County. Thank you much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? That portion of the meeting will be closed. Resolutions from other counties. Dora County Resolution Number 2017-68 in opposition of the proposed SB 395 and AB 499 relating to the regulation of non-ferrous metallic mining. Go ahead.
So the only correspondence we have this evening are the resolutions as listed on the agenda. The one from Door County regarding the non-ferrous metallic mining. Outagamie County's 2 resolutions regarding proposed legislation in enhanced nurse licensure compact. And then the other one regarding the impacts of potential negative impacts on natural resources in regards to the mining project. And Portage County's resolution and Trempeale's County resolution, both regarding different pieces of legislation, and those have are all being referred to the legislative committee. And that is all we have.
Okay. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Anybody from any committees have anything they'd like to report? Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A week and a half ago, I had the privilege of going to a park conference. And in my 26 years on the board, it was one of the best conferences I went to. A lot of it was downright, for you and me, it wasn't out of line. For example, more and more counties and cities, I just found out, are going into dog parks. And there's this one county has 7 dog parks in one county. You know, and I guess I'm very interested, of course, but I guess what I'm trying to say is this conference did a lot of stuff for a lot of different things to do with the parks instead of just
come here, come there. Many of our park committee people are there too, and they want to say something, for it, go for it, but I'm saying that it was one of the best conferences I went to. And if I get reelected, and if I do run, I'll go back to it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of the county board proceedings from October 17th, 2017, county board meeting. Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now that it's been brought up and seconded, I would like to request a change on page 146 of the minutes on amendatory ordinance 006. Somehow there was an error in what was communicated from the planning and zoning to the board. That is supposed to be R1A, not R1. So I've furnished materials to the Planning and Zoning Committee, or Planning and Zoning Department, and we'll get that hammered out. But
Okay.
correct
Thank you.
zoning is R1A.
The clerk has that, so she'll make the
Thank
correction
you.
also. County Executives Report. Oh. All in favor of the corrections, they signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. County Executives Report.
The board's attention to Resolution 220, 11/2017, authorize the hiring of Bolt Technical Services. This is the approval of the architect for the 16-bed non-criminal mental health facility that Human Services wants to build. This is actually a consolidation of two 8-bed facilities that we currently lease, but the county operates for mental health. And we believe it will be more efficient and that it'll be a better facility and better meet the needs of the individuals staying there if we build a new facility. But like so many things, the county's limited by the levy freeze. And we have great credit. We're only at 6% of our debt limit. So we're able to do capital items if the board approves. But operating money is always going to be tight while the levy freeze is in place. And in fact, we're actually applying reserves to supplement the amount of operating money we can have to get through this past budget. This serves us in a couple ways. One, by converting to a county-owned facility instead of a lease facility, that reduces our operating expenditures. And any efficiencies that would result by combining these into two facilities into one would probably also save operating money. And that's one of the things that makes this so important. That also relates to the other major item on the agenda. And I have to first of all thank the crowd for being so civil, so concise, and staying on point. And they made their points well on different sides of the issue. But we always have to look for the opportunity to make operating revenues. That's part of the equation of what we can afford to do here. I believe that the amount of net operating revenues we receive from the track is relatively small. As you know, we actually have had an outflow of about $1.8 million since the track was built. I think going forward, we could get operators, even the current operators, that would give us revenue in excess of our costs, but barely in excess of our costs. And then there's something called opportunity costs. If the track continues to operate that 15 acres, and we have to go to the market to acquire 15 acres, that's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the little bit of net revenue we get from the track would take decades and decades to pay for that opportunity cost. And I sincerely believe we're at the point now when LifeVest tells us they're only willing to go with a year-to-year contract, and that they won't build a permanent stage if they don't get into that area and don't get use of the 15 or 16 acres that are there, that the writing's on the wall. This is an organization that every community in Wisconsin would love to have in their community. In addition to the revenues the county get, which are really quite modest, there's a significant economic impact to the community, and that'll affect people that work in the hospitality industry. People that work in hotels and restaurants benefit from this. People that sell things to the individuals that choose to camp on the site probably benefit from it. But in addition to that, this will be one of a very few venues that can support A-list acts in Wisconsin. It can't really go to Country USA because they have a restriction on them that they can only have 3 things a year. We believe that this stage, which eventually will be a $750,000 asset belonging to the county, another value that you have to consider, that will only occur if they get this area, will also result in very substantial additional revenues to the county. I think Rob handed out tonight a letter from a promoter who has indicated that we'll be able to host these Class A acts. Even 1 act a year would generate significantly more operating revenue to the county, even when we're splitting those revenues with Life Fest for the first 10 years, than we get currently from the racing. After 10 years, when we own the stage, those operating revenues could be very extensive and help us support the park system. This is not to diminish the racetrack. The racetrack has been a good asset for the community. It's something that I think I helped keep an additional 12 years. But now I think we have to choose between 2 things, both of which are good, but one of which has a very significant economic impact. And I'll end my report with that. I do have an appointment tonight. And with the board's approval, I'd like to appoint to the Menasha Library Board Cynthia Witt from Menasha, and that's for a 3-year term, which will expire April 30th, 2020.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
No, just a minute. Supervisor Furry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your comments, you commented that the operational costs specific to Resolution 220 would be lower. How do you derive that comment?
Because the payment of lease is an operating cost.
Yes.
Well as occupying an owned facility doesn't require the same amount of operating money.
So you don't have to pay a lease?
We'll own the building.
But you have to pay the mortgage?
Yes, but
Yeah.
that's a capital expenditure and not an operating cost. And the point
so
is...
this is a budgeting thing. All right.
Yeah,
I understand.
the point is we have the ability to come up with capital anytime 3/4 of the board agrees.
Yeah, I understand.
But we have no ability to generate additional operating money.
I understand, but the staff and personnel will be the same as it is now.
Yes, we currently staff the 2 lease facilities.
And so that number of employees will remain the same?
It's possible that it would remain the same. It's also possible that there could be some efficiency over time.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple weeks ago, when we had a budget discussion, we had much discussion from a few supervisors who were kind of not dismayed about the pay increase we gave. And then me and Supervisor Aaron met with a county employee, and she told us that Dane County was going to offer their scheduled benefit, was going to offer their employees family and medical leave pay, in which they have. They put it a part of their budget for next year and passed it on Monday night. And after that, I emailed both you and Mr. Collier and asked him, have we thought of that? And if we have thought about that and you're opposed to that, how would I or any of my colleagues, if I wanted to have that policy put in effect? So what I'm respectfully asking is to get a response from either you or my Collier, and I also respectfully ask that maybe the Personal Finance Committee kind of look at this in the future, because I'm sure if I brought this forth to the county board, I'm sure it's going to be related back to that committee for study anyway. So I guess I think it's something that we should look into. I know it could be costly, whatever, but it's a benefit that I think, you know, we can't give a lot of things, maybe we give that. So I would respectfully ask both the Personnel Finance Committee and the Executive Branch, get back to my response of why don't we offer family and medical leave pay to our employees?
So you're just talking about the state and federal policies on family medical leave. People can take time off, for instance, to help a sick family member, and you're wanting us to look into the issues regarding having that leave paid?
Yeah, I mean, and Dane County's done it. It cost them, I looked, and the newspaper cost them approximately $600,000. Yes, I know it's costly, but I would like to at least have some further study on it and how it relates to our county.
We can get information to you that would estimate the costs and maybe highlight some of the issues.
Supervisor Bender.
Just wondering, we found that 20 acres which adjoins County Park for $200,000. You know, they were talking about maybe having Life Vest sign a 20-year contract. I'm sure 20 acres would more than cover their growth for the next 15 years at a cost of $200,000. We could basically buy that 20 acres of land. I don't know if you've been negotiating on it or what the status is, but as far as basically camping for Life Fest, there is many other opportunities. It comes down to one fact. Like you say, we have all kinds of, basically, we can borrow, we just don't have operating expenses. So $200,000, we're gonna spend $129,000 for a plan to build a building, and we're gonna worry about spending $200,000 to keep both Life Fest and the racetrack?
Well, I will respond in this way, that there's other advantages to that site as well. For instance, the berming and the sound barriers are already up. There's access to restaurants, or not restaurants, restrooms, and concession stands. You already have the bleachers. You know, you have facilities already in that location that we don't have anywhere else.
You can take the Leach Amphitheater, that's a $7 million music venue, they didn't put bleachers in there, you know, not in the back of it. I mean, if you're gonna have bleachers, you'd have them in the front, and you sell it as VIP seating, you know. So, and the bathrooms, you got a men's and a women's bathroom. There's 22,000 people that attend the main concert. Do you really think 2 bathrooms are gonna be accommodating for 22,000 people?
No, but they can be part of it, and if you have those bathrooms, then you don't need as many porta potties as you otherwise would need.
I guess 1 or 2 porta potties isn't gonna matter. I'd like to see us pursue that land for that $200,000, and one way or the other, we got room for growth in the future.
And are you suggesting that we should pursue that land either way, regardless of whether we grant this contract tonight or not? And I would tend to say it probably makes sense to look at opportunities when they come up, and that would have to be negotiated. I think it's part of a larger package now, but perhaps the seller would break it out. But again, how many years would it take us to net $200,000 from the operation of the track?
If you look at next year, we're gonna lose 38,000, because we lose 10,000 from Life Fest, because we were getting $35,000 rent, we're dropping it to 25. We lose 28,000 on the racetrack. So we lose 38,000. In 10 years, that's 380,000, and we're only looking at 200,000. So if you keep both things at that county park, you're actually gonna make $38,000 more next year than you're gonna make if you get rid of one.
It's my belief that we won't realistically be able to keep both things for any length of time. I think we're at a choice where we can go one way or the other, and I'm not sure how much life the racing has in it. You know, the racetracks are closing in many locations already. We've seen that with Manitowoc County recently. And just...
Well, and there is actually 30.
Supervisor Haig.
There's actually 30 acres there, you know, so that if you wanted to spend a little more money, you could get all 30 acres, which would include a house. But they offered us 10, 20, or 30 if you want to buy the whole property. And you know that, you've been involved.
Certainly, we researched that. That was one of the things that we had to research to report back to board members that were interested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the follow-up comment, and you made the point, I think that if the racing promoters wanted to field an offer, that availability, that window was open. There were comments made several times about, both can coexist. We were tasked to do this or tasked to do that, which I don't believe was true, but I don't believe that there's a viable promoter who's willing to take that up anyway, or else they feel they have leverage when the board votes one way and wants to undershoot what the asking rate is. But in regards to that halfway house building, Mr. Executive, we lease that. Who do we lease those buildings from?
I believe the Housing Authority owns at least one of them, maybe both.
So are those owned by the Housing Authority? Are they owned by the city of Oshkosh, or who?
I think they're currently owned by the Housing Authority, but being sold to Clarity Care, I believe. So they are going to change hands soon.
Well, the reason I ask is because specifically we had one member of this body who toured those buildings and was very adamant and passionate about the condition of those buildings. Why would we lease buildings that are substandard if they are in fact substandard? And why would we not charge the owners of those buildings to make those buildings either more efficient or bring them up to a standard where we would feel more comfortable leasing them before we would venture into building a multi-million-dollar facility?
You've asked multiple questions, but basically there has been ongoing disputes between Human Services and the Housing Authority over the conditions of those property. It's been, I think everyone will agree, there's been a lot of back and forth. I think at times there were some modifications made, but the facilities are old and not in great condition. And they're in the process of being sold from the Housing Authority to Clarity Care, but Clarity Care has a use for at least one of the facilities that doesn't include us. So it's probably a really good time to move to a better facility. And again, there's probably operational savings even as there's capital expenses involved.
So one of the organizations that may or may not currently own one of those facilities already has a purpose for one of the buildings after we vacate it?
That's correct.
Okay, that seems
they're
a lot.
they're buying the facility knowing that we're looking to move to a new facility.
Okay. I would think that the first step, I think that the cart is way in front of the horse on this, and that the first step might be figuring out who in fact owns these buildings, clarifying what the standard should be of those buildings, and finding out if we can't get the current owners to remodel or update them to a specific usable standard before we spend multi-millions of dollars for a 16-bed facility.
Actually, all that's been done, and that's what led to the decision to seek a new facility.
Well, when I asked the question, who currently owns them, and we're not really even sure.
The Housing Authority.
Well, you said the Housing Authority, but maybe Clarity Care, because we're not quite sure.
Clarity Care is in the process of purchasing them.
Okay, but then you said there was a discrepancy over what actually might need to be done with them between the Housing Authority and our Department of Health.
Human Services.
Human Services, I'm sorry. So, I mean, some of that.
It's been an ongoing dispute between Human Services and the Housing Authority as to whether they were adequately maintaining those facilities.
So is there arbitration involved? Can we use our department here to figure out if there are standards that should be upgraded, or?
The conclusion that the Human Service Department, together with the Human Service Board, has come to is that they would like a new facility.
I understand that. Thank you.
So you'd also posed you made another comment I want to address, and I'm not sure I understood your comment, but I do believe there are operators, and if we went out for proposals again, I do believe we would get proposals that met our minimum bid. But that minimum bid requirement was for $28,000, with $9,000 going to the electric utilities of the track. So the net was $19,000. The county also pays stormwater utilities and a fee to the power company for transformers that eat up a lot of that money for the period outside the time that the track is operating, so that those fall on the county. So, but I didn't want to leave your comment unaddressed. There definitely is promoters, I think, that would be interested in continuing that operation. That's not the issue. The issue is, there's clearly a huge economic difference in the results of renting that space to Life Promotions than continuing to rent it to track operators at the current levels of rental.
Certainly, and I don't disagree with what you said. I think that there was a fairly large window of opportunity that was opened through the RFP process, and there there were no bidders who bid the asking rate during that window of opportunity. So even though it's very similar to what happened last time where, maybe there's a position of leverage for the promoter and they think they can offer us less than what we need or want for that. And then the board votes one way and there's a different feeling, so all of a sudden they're running and wanting to pay us, and then the board votes a different way, and then they give us, or offering us less than what the RFP stated. And now
Yes.
now there's more promoters, and it just seems like it's a strange
But
proposition.
that deserves more of an explanation, to be fair. We went out with a request for proposals. We did not receive any proposals that agreed to pay what we said was a stated minimum. However, we have not gone back out for new proposals. And we've received indications from Impact Motorsports that they would meet that minimum if we went back. But other circumstances have changed since then, and that minimum is not necessarily a good deal to the county, but was a better deal than what we had in prior years. And we actually lost money in all prior years of operating the track. That would not be the case this time.
Thank you.
So,
Supervisor Haig. Supervisor Rowland, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were 2 or 3 people that made the statement that as successful as Life Fest is and has been, that even with the plans that are in place, you'd run out of space in 10 years. Is that true?
Life Fest is indicating that after 10 years, that they probably would outgrow the available grounds. But we would be meeting their needs for 10 years if we free up the 15 or 16 acres currently occupied by the track and the pit area. So that over that 10-year period, we would probably be looking for opportunities to acquire additional land. And if the right opportunity came up, we would probably be smart to do that. And presumably, we would pass that cost on through the next 10-year contract with Life Fest. And as Life Fest continues to grow, their economic impact in the community will continue to grow.
One other clarification, if I may. Several comments were made to the effect we should be able to coexist. And I know the last time we addressed this issue, that was a big point of contention, but in attending 2 or 3 Parks Committee meetings, I am of the understanding that that just won't work. Can you clarify?
Life Fest has never said, if we don't get this area, we're leaving. But we know other communities are courting them. We know they would like a larger plot of land. We know that they won't build the permanent stage, which should tell you something, and that they only want to go year to year. I think the writing's on the wall.
Thank you.
Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. County Executive, am I not correct in saying that when this stage first was brought up, they didn't even want to have it where you and the committee proposed to put it?
They weren't initially proposing that area. They started considering that area when Impact Motorsports indicated they were leaving after we asked for $22,000 in fees, with $9,000 being for their electric utilities, which would net us $13,000 before stormwater fees and the cost of the transformers. We were actually asking for an amount that probably would not have met all our costs, but it was a significant jump from what they had paid us in the prior year. When they said that they were leaving, that then opened up the possibilities of locating in that grandstand area. And then when all the factors were considered, how much land that freed up, what the cost was of getting alternate land, I think the conclusion was reached that that was an ideal situation and that that would be necessary for a 10-year contract and the building of the permanent stage. And by the way, the stage will be owned by Life Fest, but we'll share in the revenues for 10 years. The county fair will get to use that stage for free during those 10 years. But after those 10 years, the county will own that $750,000 asset and will be able to keep the revenues generated by booking other acts there. And the venue is completely different than the other venues in the community. It's much larger, would probably be the only one that could accommodate what they call A-list acts.
I wasn't going to bring it up because I'm on the fair, but since you brought it up, the Fair Association has never made money, and they've had big stages out there when we've had it in front of the grandstand.
But part of that is how much did you have to pay to put a temporary stage up and take one down?
And my other question is, who's going to pay for the electrical and all that to go out? Because we have to get generators and everything to go out there and all this other. Who's going to pay for all of that?
You know, in the past with Life Fest, they had their own generators. But as part of this contract, we will be paying those electrical utilities, at least in the staging area.
And my last thing is it's been brought up about promoters. And I don't care who you have for promoters, whether you like the one you got now or if you don't. If I read the contract right, they just asked to negotiate. Is that correct? That all they asked was some negotiation, that they didn't say we wouldn't pay that amount?
What they said was the amount, and I don't know the exact words, but you can even see it online.
Right.
What they suggested was that amount was too high and that it would have to be negotiated. So we were asking for a minimum in that proposal. Once they indicated that they weren't willing to agree to the minimum, see, had they just left that box blank, then we would have accepted that as a proposal. But because they filled it out and indicated they wouldn't pay, that was the end of that. But I have to tell you the truth. I think the county's much better off going in the Life Fest direction financially than continuing with the racetrack.
And I won't argue that with financially maybe, but sometimes we've got to look out for our people that are in our county also. Thank you.
Supervisor Lautenschläger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, I think just to clarify a couple things and kind of answering a few things to Mr. Supervisor Haig's question is, both those houses are owned by the Oshkosh Housing Authority.
Correct.
One of the facilities is at least 50 years plus. We can't even use the basement of it because it's just uninhabitable. And the Human Services a few times have asked for the roof to be repaired on it, stuff like this, and they've said they've done it, and it still leaks and whatever. So the thing is, the Housing Authority hasn't been willing to bring any of those houses up to code. But, and the other thing is by combining the two facilities into one, the Human Services Board, we discuss this lots of times, and number one, we will be saving because we might be saving on staff because we might not have as much staff, but you're combining services. So instead of buying food for two separate things, you're only buying one. Furniture and stuff like this, you're only buying for one house instead of two houses. So yes, we will be saving some on combining the two into one facility.
I would agree with most everything you said, and I would just leave it that by having one 16-bed facility instead of two 8-bed facilities, there should be some efficiencies. I don't know where they will be or what extent, but there should be some.
Well, right, and the one 16-bed facility that we're talking about doing would be definitely set up better than two houses. I mean, even safety-wise and everything for the residents and the staff that work there.
I think the houses you're in now were not originally intended for that type of facility.
Right. Thank you.
Supervisor Binder, I don't know if I shut you off or if you shut yourself off.
I know, like, when you originally proposed this, it was basically by combining the two facilities, we were gonna try to cut the staff by 1 or 2 people. I amended it, remember, to see how it worked out, and then perhaps cut the staff then. And just on the Life Fest, when they attended our meeting, their representative, I asked them if they could build that stage anywhere in County Park. He sat right across from me, and you were there too. He said they'd build it on Y and widen the driveway. That's the ideal location where they would like to see the stage. If we want to put it in the racetrack, that's fine, but that's not exactly where Life Fest wanted it.
That would not match my understanding at all. I believe that Life Promotions would like to be in the grandstand area.
You were at the meeting, you heard them. Their representative was there and you were there. I asked him, and he said that's where they'd like to put this. And that site is prepared. You don't have to do any excavating. You could start building a stage there tomorrow. It's 100%. There's no excavating. There's no nothing. It's built for the stage.
Well, perhaps when I'm back in my seat, Rob Way can address that, but my understanding is we've received indications in writing that they won't enter into a 10-year contract or build the stage if they're not in that area.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a member of the Winnebago County Housing Authority, I feel compelled to stick up and maybe rectify what I feel. First of all, one facility, Torch Tomorrow, which is on New York Street in Oshkosh, is owned by the Oshkosh Housing Authority. Summit House, which is I can't remember which street, is owned by Winnebago County Housing Authority. You are correct, Mark. We are planning, and Claire DeCare is planning on buying, I think, the one on Summit House that the Winnebago County Housing Authority owns. One thing that maybe was brought up before this issue came up, it should be brought up, one reason that maybe we didn't do improvements, maybe, is for 19 years, we couldn't charge the county more for, in least those buildings. And I gotta tell you the truth, I'll be honest, and Supervisor Keller can back me up. A few years ago, I said, why don't we charge a little bit more? We haven't charged for, I think at that time, 16 years, we haven't raised. And then, and I think only then, that's when we heard the county said that they had some violation or up the code. Point is, I support this. I totally support these buildings facilities, but I want to make that clear. And the reasons why those houses are in condition are is not to blame of either Bill Topol, the Human Services Director, or the Housing Authority Director now. Somehow they made this agreement and they just let it pass. And I just want to clear the name of the Housing Authority. I think we were trying to do best. I mean, the Housing Authority is making sure that we don't know how long it's going to take to build this building, but I said to Sue, I said, the Executive Director, is Claire DeCare going to lease to the county? Still, I said yes. So I just want to set the record straight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 2011-2017. What about what? I'm doing it. Okay, I'm doing mine first, then I'll let you talk. On Resolution 2011-2017, there's a corrected resolution for that resolution. So it's on your desk, so. Okay, Supervisor Warnke.
I think that you were totally wrong by censoring the racetrack people in this issue, because they should have gotten to say what they had to say, because if this thing passes, which it probably will, they can't say anything anymore. So why don't you let them talk? That's what I don't understand.
Because they're not on the agenda.
Well, it certainly has an impact as to what happens when.
I take the advice of my counsel.
Well, I think it was a wrong advice.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Report number 1001, LBF Investments, LLC, Town of Amro, tax parcel number 016-0687. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of report number 1.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. A mandatory ordinance number 110117, rezoning from R1A to rural residential general agricultural to A2 general agricultural. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 110117.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report number 2, AF Group LLC, Town of Algoma, tax parcel number 002-0028-19. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Mr. Chairman, I move for report number 002.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. A mandatory ordinance. Supervisor Rasmussen.
I move for a mandatory ordinance number 11217.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report number 3, Harrison Sturgis Jr. Living Trust, Harrison Sturgis Jr. Trust, and Lisa A. Sturgeon, trustee, Town of Neenah, tax parcel number 010-0199P, Supervisor Egan.
I move for the approval of report number 3.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 209-11-2017.
You going to do the mandatory, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. A mandatory ordinance 1103-17. Rezoning A2 general agriculture to R2 suburban low density. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 110317.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 209-11-2017. Disallow claim of John A. Korth. Supervisor Egan. I'm sorry, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 209-11-2017.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. 1 no. That is carried. Resolution number 210-11-2017. Authorize execution of Sunnyview Exposition Center ground lease with Life Promotions. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution 210-112017. The county board received a letter on their desk today from Red Rock Productions. And for people in the audience and for the people on the TV, I want to just bring up a few things that said that by building a permanent stage and structure, it would open up the ability for a promoter such as himself to bid on artists such as Aerosmith, Bryan Adams, Elton John, etc., and how that would become a viable artist that could have potentially confirm a date in Oshkosh at that venue. Well, the gentleman was correct, except it's Winnebago County, it's not Oshkosh. And that our model, business model as such, will give back a portion to all the economic developments of small and local business. And that's what I like, because usually your big businesses get the stuff and little business foot the bill. But this tells me that it's going to help out the little businesses. So.
Supervisor Gabbard.
I have several questions. I think that probably Rob could answer them for me. We've got the figure of $180,000 in the operation budget to make improvements. I understand all that, but do we think it's only $180,000? Is that a rough idea, or is it going to be 180? Is it going to be 250? Is it going to be 175? What do you think?
Well, before I start, Mr. Chairman, would it be possible to work from the podium? Since we're dealing with a lot of paperwork that
Sure,
we might
go
have to
ahead.
refer to, there's a table up front that make it easier.
Okay, go ahead. You aren't going to go on with the whole production, you're going to answer a question, right?
Three resolutions.
I understand, okay.
All the chairs take. So again, could you repeat the question?
On line 26 of the resolution, you have, and we discussed this before when this was coming out, and I know it's in the budget, $180,000 from the 2017 operation budget to make improvements. My question is, so it's in the budget, but is that a guesstimate? Are we looking at 180? Are we looking at 150? Are we looking at 200? What is your best?
No,
opinion
it
on
was
that?
it was not a guesstimate. It came from at the time it was Bill Demler who developed the I wouldn't call it a quote, but he's working off of numbers that we worked out. Primarily, it's a lot of grading that will be done and material, so we're working off the numbers from the highway department.
So when you get done with that 180,000, it's ready to rock and roll?
No, it will be in the phase that's ready for Life Fest to accept it. It is not a...
Complete.
Well, yeah, for Life Fest for the first phase, so this is not a finished product.
Right.
I mean, completely with it ready to go. It's kind of a staged approach, but Life Fest, it'll be ready for that.
I understand that. And it's a $1 per year lease,
Correct.
okay? And then on the, and this is just me with the insurance thing, there's $1 million insurance liability. No umbrella required, just a $1 million.
Well, that came from our insurance risk management person, so it was,
Okay.
yeah, to delve into that.
I don't think that's.
Yeah, I'm not
just-
qualified on that
Yeah, I
one.
know, but I just don't
Yep.
think $1 million is all right. If you had like a $5 million umbrella, which
Mhm.
doesn't cost that much, it would be better. Okay, thanks.
Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll request the chair's permission to address the RFP. Would that be proper?
Well, I don't know what you're getting at, or,
Well, the whole discussion is the RFP, the position of it, and then, of course, moving on to the contract with Life Fest.
no, this is just about Life Fest.
So I can't ask why the RFP was turned down?
No. You should have asked that when the executive was up here.
Okay.
Supervisor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rob, what, if any, pre-work has been done in seeing if there is contamination in the pit area and how much that might cost in the future for cleanup? I mean, has that been taken into, I didn't see anywhere in either contract where it came, where it was noted.
I've talked to the DNR about that. If there is any suspicious spots, and basically the answer is that we don't have to go out of our way looking for it, number one. If we see a site that we suspect might be contaminated or discolored, as he put it, this individual would come in and confer that all we would need to do at that time is to remove that spot. And as long as we don't remove it off-site, we're not required to permit it, because that's when the process starts, removing it off-site. That as long as it stays within, in our case, the pit area is where it would be stored, we can just go ahead and refill that spot, whatever we take out.
So would that area be used for any kind of camping activity at all? I guess my concern would be that there might be contaminants in the soil, and long-term exposure by, even short-term exposure by anybody could be problematic for the county.
Well, I can't address it unless we're out there looking at it. Presently, we did do a site inspection looking for it, and we haven't seen anything. We have taken photographs and so forth. At this time, haven't viewed anything that, again, I'd term suspicious. But we're aware of it, that it might occur as excavation occurs. So I guess we're addressing it as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to address this resolution and then just in general regarding the Life Fest decision-making. And first of all, best case scenario, of course, is if you can come to a win-win for everyone. However, sometimes as leaders, we don't have that luxury. I would like to speak in favor of this resolution and the others due to the proven partnership of Life Fest in our community based on their continued quality of event and growth. They've also had minimal cost to the county for policing and cleanup and that sort of thing. One of the things that I've really admired about the event is that it's not just an event like so many other others that we have, but there's a whole partnership around youth and reaching out to youth in our communities and promoting values and lifestyle choices that will enhance our communities. They have a tendency as an organization to reach out to confused, sometimes troubled youth through other kids who come to the event. And I think it's kind of an event plus in our community, and I think it's important that we remember that in terms of its quality. It also, as someone who prefers more conservative events, it offers a family-friendly choice instead of the typical type of events we have in our community. And it's nationally recognized. That should get our attention, that it is something that is desirable. And I do think we are at risk of losing the benefit of this event if we don't act in a positive way. I think it is, I believe it is worthy of our continued support, a priority for us, and a reasonable investment on the part of Winnebago County, and an opportunity to increase revenue for additional events. So I would encourage my colleagues to support these resolutions.
Thank you. Supervisor Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo those sentiments as well. And maybe to address a couple previous points, one board member said we should leave something open that is good for Winnebago County residents. I would have to believe that there are certainly a larger number of Winnebago County residents who attend Life Fest and attend the races on any given week. Seeing as how there's 23,000 a day in attendance there, they're not all from out of the county or out of the state, although there are large numbers from all over. In regards to, and I think County Executive Harris made an important observation, which very coincidentally is very biblical. He said the handwriting is on the wall, which is in reference to a year-to-year contractual scenario that we're looking at now. The handwriting on the wall is actually from the book of Daniel, chapter 5. And it's Reader's Digest condensed version is King Belshazzar was throwing this big wicked party, and the hand of the Lord appeared and wrote 3 words on the wall. And Daniel was the only man in the kingdom who could translate the handwriting on the wall. So it's kind of a unique observation that Mr. Harris made there. I certainly support Life Fest and being a regular attendee to the event. This past summer when I went, I've never stood so far back and seen so many image bearers, so many people at the event. All worshiping in unison and singing the songs from these very well recognized Christian performers. There is no alcohol served on the premises. Very family-friendly event. I think maybe I saw 2 or 3 people smoking a cigarette, which maybe is neither here nor there, but just a very clean, family-friendly atmosphere. I'm very surprised, too, that there have been several Park and Rec meetings since the time of the last vote and this vote tonight. There were extra chairs set up at the very last Park and Rec meeting, and there were only 3 county board supervisors who came to that meeting. I thought Mr. Rowe had a very keen observation that maybe he would share in observance of that. But being a previous member of the Park and Rec Committee too, and maybe to help Supervisor Fari with an answer to his question, the obligation from the promoter was not met through the RFP. So basically, they thought that they had the county over a barrel and that they could get the track for less money. And when this whole Life Fest thing came through, and then they started talking about using the grandstand area as a likable, feasible spot for the stage, that's when the current promoter decided he better get his tail in gear and accept whatever the county was offering. We shot down the last venture into this stage idea in February, I believe it was, and the RFP went out. Shortly after that, the promoter decided they couldn't afford the asking price of that RFP, so we have an empty venue. I guess the choice could be, or the decision could be made that we could just leave it empty until we would find somebody who might be able to afford to rent it from us for maybe a year or 2 or 3. They're losing money, but I think that this is a step in the right direction for a 10-year contract. We've heard from Mrs. Albright here tonight that this represents $5.2 million in economic purchases locally here annually, which is the second largest event in Winnebago County. Previously, I think it was the third, so it keeps moving up on the charts apparently. And I recognize this as an excellent event, and I would ask everybody on the board to support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Norton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rob, the purchase being toured that property that some people want us to purchase to keep these two to coexist, can you give us an estimate? We heard kind of from the county executive, how much would it cost to buy that property and develop that property? That's my first question.
Originally, they had considered putting it out on the market as 2 units, but now they've listed it as a single price for the entire acreage, 40 acres. So.
And how much was that?
At 500.
500,000? Okay. And how much would it cost to develop into camping or whatever Life Fest would need?
I can't give you that estimate.
Any estimate?
Yeah, it'd be difficult. It'd be into the tens of thousands.
Would we have to worry about any contaminated land or whatever like that? We'd have to worry about
No,
that?
I wouldn't think so. They're farm fields.
My second question, you gave us a letter from Red Rock Productions and about who I think would be one of the promoters, one of the main, or not the main promoter we work with, getting the event share. Have you been in contact with him, and do you think, has he contacted you that maybe you have tentative agreement that events would come to this stage if the stage was put in the grandstand? Have you tentative agreements?
Yeah, correct. Well, I don't know if I need to refer to it necessarily, but we do have a contract that is being processed from Sean. We have met with him and discussed it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you're going to add to something? And presently, the contract is being signed. We know he's committed to at least 1 concert. He's looking at 2 other concerts, depending on whether the stage is put in or not.
And how much would that net the county if this is put in place? Because if this goes into effect, as the contract or agreement says, we split whatever Life Fest gets the proceeds from using that stage, correct? So how much would that approximately get this county?
And it is an approximation. Now, I can give what the 2 contracts are if he rents out the, again, Vicki, could you give me? I don't think it's the one that, yeah, it's referred to in the fee schedule. I provided that as a fiscal note. That's what you'll be looking at. And if I'm remembering what was brought in from those 2 concerts, it involves rental of the entire grounds at $29,000 for the 2, for each of the concerts. And then another approximately $21,000 for the stage rentals. So 50-something thousand is what it comes out to. It's part of the fiscal notes in the fee schedule section.
So a growing professional organization like Life Fest Promotions is willing to invest a venue, a stage that will invest over $750,000, which will bring in more money to us. We'd rather do that than spend over $500,000 on a venue which is at best very suspect, at best is losing money for us. And I got to tell you, I got one final only email I got about this issue was right before here, and a woman said, "Why are you doing it for only 1 week?" I think we blew that out of proportion. I think if we get this stage, you know, Rob, and I'd like to have this stage be used as much as possible. Well, that's going to be used for more than 3 or 4 days. Another thing said, "Why are you taking away money that's coming to the city?" I question how much money is coming. I question that because I'll tell you what, yes, Seymour and Allegheny County have a racetrack, but they're the only ones. I don't think Fond du Lac has, I don't think Washer, Wapaco, blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell you what, when the county executive was naming or said he thought racing was dying and he thought places were closing, it was shouted back, well, what about Chilton? If I understand correctly, Chilton is a private entity. And I'll tell you what, if someone wants, and this group wants to build a private racetrack area someplace in the county, probably in a township or whatever, and the planning and zoning committee brings it forth, and the neighbors that don't mind being there, I'll vote for it. That's a big difference to me. I am all for this because this means more, this is better for the county economically and all ways round. I'll tell you what, if racing means so much, then I think, and I said this in committee, I said it to supervisors, if this does not pass, I think we should try to sell this little racetrack to them, because then they would have to do all the expenses. But I am in favor and positive of going with a professional group that's growing, and it has a lot more sustainability than any racing group can have. So I urge your support for this resolution.
Thank you. Supervisor Warnke.
I would like to offer up an amendment to postpone this until a plan is made out where we could accommodate both of these people.
Second.
We have an obligation to our citizens, and they are used to going there, and we need to keep them there. We've paid $1.5 million to develop this racetrack. People love to go to this racetrack. We've heard them several times back here, and telling about their children, about how they're learning about racing and everything else. And there's land out there that's available. It's going to cost way over $100,000 to just remove that track alone. And why can't you put that into a piece of property? I don't understand it. Another thing is, this thing about the big bands coming to town, there is nothing to back this up. And when you start giving out these big names like Aerosmith coming, I don't quite believe that, because they're not going to come. There's too many other places around here that they can go to, mostly Milwaukee area, because that's where they can accommodate these large crowds. We're rushing into this way too much, and it's a decision that's going to last for a long time. We need to look at this. We need to look at a plan to accommodate both the racetrack and Life Fest. I have nothing against Life Fest whatsoever. You talk about economic impact. Yes, it's got good economic impact. Well, the airport has got over $130 million a year in economic impact. They support over 500 jobs. And, look what happened there. So that's a different issue. I'm not going to even talk about that. But the whole point is, we need to slow down on this. We're not kicking Life Fest out and everything else, but when we start getting saying that if we don't do this now, that, we're going to leave. Well, I'm sorry, if that's the way you want to play, then leave. But we don't want you to leave. We want to work with both of you. And I have had so many calls of people that want me to support this racetrack, and I will. So that is my amendment, and I would like to see it go through.
Supervisor Rowe on the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm definitely opposed to the amendment. For somebody that knows how long projects can take, I don't want this to take another 4 or 5 years. We've been down this road. The questions since the last meeting Whether or not both can coexist has been answered, and unfortunately, the answer is no. They can't. So then you have to make a choice. And in my opinion, the choice is Life Vest. Several times tonight, the word success or successful has been mentioned. In my opinion, if you look in the dictionary tonight when you get home and look up success or successful, there's probably a logo for Life Vest there. I would urge you to defeat the motion to postpone.
Supervisor Bender on the amendment?
It is. When Rob took us on our parks tour, we went and toured that land, and they offered us 10 acres for $100,000 at that time and 20 acres for $200,000. It's for sale by owner. As Bill knows, anything's negotiable. They basically don't want to, you were a realtor, you know that there's nothing in writing. The guy's selling it on his own. So I don't know why we wouldn't want to buy 20 acres of land.
This isn't on that part.
Well, it's basically trying to pertain to delaying it so that we can pursue the land purchase, so that we can meet the Life Fest needs. I don't want to see Life Fest leave, but if we buy 20 acres, that's more than a racetrack, and it's not contaminated. So I think it's a no-brainer why we wouldn't buy that 20 acres of land and give them land that basically kids can play on that's not contaminated.
Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to echo Supervisor Rowe in saying that I oppose this. I remember the last time we voted on this, the main reason was to see if they could coexist. Well, we're back here again to vote on this. I know I think we've been talking about this whole process since I came on the board, and it's been a lengthy discussion, and every time, every group has said, we want a decision, we don't want to keep pushing this along. I think the longer we delay this, the longer the area is vacant and isn't being used. I think everybody just wants to see this decision made, and I think it needs to be made tonight.
Supervisor Farley on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the amendment, I'm going to urge all of our colleagues here to support the amendment. I'm of the opinion that we can do something for both of these parties. I'm of the opinion it's in the county's best interest, and more importantly to the residents of this county, that we do everything we can to endeavor to keep both the racetrack and Life Fest operational within this county. And I think we can do it. We just have to go that direction here.
Supervisor Finch on the amendment.
Yes, sir. I'm urging my fellow supervisors to vote this down. Reason being, we've been playing around with the racetrack people since almost day one. They've had their opportunity numerous of times, and each time they wanted to play some games. They sent the RFP to them. What did they do? Put down to be negotiated. They know better than that. They've been in business long enough, but they like playing games. Well, the game's over. So I'm hoping the supervisors vote this down and vote to accept this resolution that we brought forward. Thank you.
Supervisor Egan on the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, did anybody negotiate between the two? We said that we were going to work on it and on this and try to get it negotiated. Did anybody talk to the two committees and try to work something out? Did the parks? Or was it just one-sided?
What do you mean by talk to the two committees?
Well, when we left last time, it was supposed to be try to negotiate so both things could stay on the grounds. Was anything ever done? Was there any conversation amongst the groups, or was it just one-sided?
Life Promotion has made a statement that was in the questionnaire, the Q&A that I sent out, and basically they've pretty much made a statement that indicates they are growing beyond the audience area. The key to this and the solution previously was put it out by County Road Y. Well, they've re-examined that. Used to be looking at the camping. They've outgrown the camping. We've tried to respond. We have about one more year left of camping space that we can provide them. Now, in all of this, yes, looking at their audience area, they're soon going to be expanding beyond their capacity. So the stage going out front is not going to accommodate that audience area that they're soon going to outgrow. So I built a stage that isn't going to accommodate that.
So it's just one-sided, was my question. Nobody talked with the racetrack anymore since that one time.
Well, I'm not sure how the racetrack people are going to change the conversation here.
Well, because when that last meeting said that they're go ahead and negotiate and talk with the different people. And I was just wondering if anybody did. Or if it was
I'm not
just,
sure where that was
so
stated
in other words,
anywhere.
no, it was just
I'm not
talk
sure
with-
where that statement was
It was just
stated.
left with Life Fest. Thank you.
Apparently not.
Somebody could
Supervisor
recall.
Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting we had, I voiced on several different occasions that I was concerned that we had not rightfully explored or with good, I guess basically what I didn't think that we had explored the land options and the ability to coexist. I had several conversations with the county exec, along with Rob and other members of some of these committees, asking them what it would cost to acquire additional property. The cost to the west of the current fairgrounds is about $80,000 an acre. We're looking at, depending on who you're talking to, $200,000 to $500,000 to acquire additional property. We're looking at additional property if we relocate people of having to build another berm and spend a significant amount of money in doing that. I think this is delayed long enough. It's time to make the decision and to move forward. I've been around long enough to see what happens when we don't move quickly. And I'll use Country USA and Rockfest as an example of that. We were very lucky in the fact that they came back to Winnebago County, but in conversations with the Dan, he had indicated to me that they were also looking at Calumet County, who was trying to talk them into coming over there. We've researched this. I agree with the other supervisors that the ability to coexist, I don't believe that's there. I believe we have to take in, our job is to take into consideration what's going to benefit all the taxpayers of Winnebago County the most. I think the strategic planning to move from racing into this type of venue and the other possibilities that it brings provides a better return for our investment. $1.5 million, and I don't to build this current track and to build the berm, and I don't believe we've returned a third of that money back to the taxpayers of Winnebago County. That's not right either. If we continue to delay on things, we're going to have the same things happen that we saw with Country USA and Rockfest. There's an old saying that those that don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. That's what we're doing. Let's move forward on this, take the vote, and change the venue to a venue that's going to provide more for all the taxpayers of Winnebago County.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well said, Supervisor Brooks. Earlier, someone alluded to the Bible. I don't know that much about the Bible. The book of Noah, however, is good. Or is it the book of Genesis, where 2 animals of every species are taken on an ark? This reminds me of horses. 2 horses or 1 horse. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. For God's sake, we put out RFPs. We asked for RFPs. The racetrack people said, we don't want to pay. Okay, case closed. Now a group of people say, not only are we willing to do something good, but we're going to do it for 10, 20, probably more years. Why wouldn't we do that? Absolutely, tonight is the night to make a decision. Let's get on that horse and ride with it, for heaven's sake.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The point has been made.
Okay, we'll vote on our iPad. We'll vote aye if you... Pardon? We're voting to postpone, to lay this, to postpone this, that Supervisor Wernke asked, and it was seconded.
Majority.
It takes a majority.
No, postpone to when? To when? Postpone it to when?
Well, it was postpone it to win it. Well, I just,
Does he have to have a time?
I don't, nobody said a date, just said to postpone it.
He didn't say. He said postpone it, but he didn't give a date to when.
Bob, did you say, excuse me, Mr. Warnke, did you say postpone to a definite time?
No.
Okay, so you're saying to, okay, so you're saying to postpone indefinitely. Is that correct? Well, no, I'm asking you, what is your motion to postpone till when? All right. Okay. You have your answer, Mr. Norton.
Okay, does everybody understand? You're voting on the amendment to postpone it for 6 months. If you agree with that, vote aye. If you don't agree with it, vote no.
Did you still second 6-month postponement?
Yeah, it was second.
But not for that specifically.
He said that, I believe he said that when.
Was there, does somebody want to second it, or?
Tom Ellis.
Oh, Tom Ellis did.
I'd rather have it less time, but I'll go on.
Harold.
He's got it now. That has failed. Now back to the original resolution. Supervisor Norton?
No,
Supervisor Wingren?
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Second.
That's what we're back on. Now we're on the original resolution, number 210, 11/2017. We're ready to vote. That is passed. Resolution number 211, 11/2017, authorize execution of Sunnyview Exposition Center rental agreement between Winnebago County and Life Fest Promotions. Supervisor Finch.
I move for resolution number 211-112017.
Been moved and seconded. We'll vote on our little iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you don't. That is passed. Ordinance number 212, 11/2017, amend section 19.24, parent 7 of the General Code of Winnebago County to incorporate the updated Sunnyview Exposition Center rental schedule. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for ordinance number 212-112017.
Been moved and seconded. We'll vote on our iPad. Supervisor Farley.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Tom Egan. Are you aware of any of these cost increases that would affect the fair?
No, fair, this is charged to utilities in fuel.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
We'll vote by our little iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. Supervisor Wingren, you got to vote.
Susan Esther Greenbaum. Susan Locke Hazelwood.
That is passed. Resolution number 213, 11/2017, grant City of Oshkosh a construction and maintenance easement for bus shelter, courthouse campus. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move for your approval of resolution number 213-11-2017.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 214-11-2017. Authorize electric underground easement between Winnebago County and Wisconsin Public Service. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask your approval of resolution number 214-11-2017.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ordinance number 215-11-2017, amend section 1.12, parent 7, parent A of General Code of Winnebago County. Supervisor Singstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of ordinance number 215-11-2017.
Second.
After contacting the county clerks of the following counties, Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, Manitowoc, Brown, and Outagamie, I received the following information. These counties recently passed new salary and per diem adjustments effective April 2018. The salary amounts, which range from $2,004 to $7,956, are the minimum amounts paid annually to their board members. The low $2,004 amount is in addition to $100 monthly board meeting payments. The average salary range amount is $4,125, over 2.5 times the adjusted amount of $1,575 being requested for our monthly board meetings. The inflation factor since 2007 is 19.1%. Our $66 per diem amount is now equivalent to $78.60. The $75 being requested is only a factor of 13.6%, or a reduction of $3.60 per board meeting. Since 2014, this board has transferred $79,425 of unspent taxpayers' money to the general fund, which either increased the fund balance or was spent elsewhere. Also, please remember, our elected officials received annual salary increases of 1.5% to 2% over a 4-year period approved by this board. After 10 years, the playing field should become a little more equal. This board must earn this minimum adjustment by being more involved and knowledgeable of all future challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll vote on our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. You ready?
Yep.
He's coming. Come on and vote.
Supervisor Brooks has to confirm.
Yeah, he was visiting.
Oh, okay.
That is passed. Resolution number 216-11-2017, support preservation of tax deduction for state and local taxes on federal income tax returns. Supervisor Egan.
Chairman, I move for the approval of resolution number 216-11-2017.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wondering who was the originator of this resolution?
Come from one of the other counties originally, and then it was brought into our county.
Along with the resolution, was the legislative committee given a copy of the Big Six tax plan?
No, just the resolution.
Okay, so nobody read or studied the Big Six tax plan?
No.
Is the Big Six tax plan even something that's a viable option that the federal government is currently looking at?
Only if you want to have deductions taken out of the local taxes. The federal won't give them to you.
Is the Big Six tax plan even being considered by the federal government at this point? I know there's been a number of tax bills that have been offered and pulled, offered and pulled, offered and pulled, so I'm not even sure that we know that the Big Six tax plan is even something that's relevant today.
I cannot tell you as of today, no.
Thank you. I urge you to abstain from voting this if we don't even know that the Big Six tax plan is something that's currently on the table.
I would hope that you vote for this because it's very important. If it does go through, we will not get deductions. They will not give them to us.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been following this federal tax plan right up till early this afternoon. And one of the things that a lot of people seem to forget is that the proposals for tax deductions in other areas have been increased. And from what I understand overall, if that tax plan would go through, that we would not lose anything in Wisconsin by losing that deduction, because we would gain it on the increased deductions for individual and family, and as well as the children's increase. So my position on this right now is that this is not a time to vote in favor of something we have no knowledge of what the final result will be. And I would just as soon say that we pull this resolution. That would be my motion.
Second.
So you'll have to make an amendment then, or you'll have to ask that.
He voted for it on the committee.
Yeah, he did.
that-
He made a motion to withdraw the resolution.
So your motion is to withdraw this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, only the chairman of the committee can withdraw resolution.
Yeah, you're right. They brought it to my attention, which I had forgotten, that only the chairman of that committee can withdraw that resolution. Supervisor Brooks.
Just wanted to mention, along the same lines as Supervisor Smith was talking about, and now being retired with a lot of time on my hands, I've looked at many of these proposals and saw how they would economically impact me, and looked at my past taxes, and with the increase of the tax deduction, it wouldn't make sense for me to file long form anymore. My deductions would be less, and that includes the salt deductions that I get. So I guess I'm at the point right now where, number one, I'd like to send our concerns to them, but I don't think that some of the information that Supervisor Haig and Supervisor Smith have brought forward are being considered when we start putting forth resolutions like this. I think we're a little in front of the cart on this one.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will move to postpone indefinitely.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to postpone indefinitely. So do they debate that? Mr. Bodnar? Is that debatable?
Yes.
Supervisor Thompson on the postponement?
No, I had wanted to speak on, the issue is moot for me now. Thank you.
Okay. Vote by your iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove.
On the postponement.
On the postponement. That failed.
No.
Carried.
Carried.
I didn't get the vote changed. It should
Oh,
just be
okay.
short.
Resolution number 217-11-2017, support Assembly Bill 409, marijuana possession penalties. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number 217-11-2017.
Supervisor Haig.
And again, I would ask where this originated.
Come again from another county. What this is saying is that as of right now, if you are picked up, you can get from $1,000 fine plus 6 months in jail. They're asking to go down to just a $100 fine.
When they sent the template of this resolution, they include a copy of Bill 409?
Yes,
Who is the author of that bill?
I don't have it with me. I'm sorry, Mr. Haig.
Thank you.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could someone from maybe the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee find out for me if we have any charges in Winnebago County? And could someone find out for me how many people have been picked up for this in Winnebago County? I tried over a year ago, me and a city councilwoman, and she got the runaround, and I got a runaround. The city police said you contact the DA. The DA says contact the city police. So I guess I would like to know how many individuals this affects in this Winnebago County, if that's possible.
We don't have an answer for you. Supervisor Shorsey.
I would like to say that I do not support this resolution, and I would prefer that Winnebago County, our cities and towns, move to develop policies and practices that discourage the use and abuse of mind-altering substances, and would like to see our county promote healthy behaviors and make it a very unfriendly place for illegal use of drugs and alcohol. And I see that this direction is a slippery slope and not one that I would like to see our community follow.
Supervisor Brooks.
I'm going to support this for a couple reasons. First of all, not to support the illegal use of drugs, but the impact that the current procedures have had on people. Up until about 12 years ago, Winnebago County, along with many other counties, were charging individuals, college students, locals, et cetera, with a forfeiture rather than a criminal offense. That changed a few years back, that policy, and now we're charging high school and college kids with criminal possession of marijuana, which has a tremendous impact on their ability to get funding to go to college. It actually makes them, it doesn't allow them to be given any grant money or any Pell money, et cetera. The other one is just one that I just heard the other day. A woman who has a prescription out of California was crossing from Canada into North Dakota, and she had her marijuana in there. Now, obviously illegal. She was charged with a crime. It was a pretty light sentence. But, you know, I'm getting to the point here where I think we have to not only take a look at finding ways to discourage the use of it, but I think we have to be much more reasonable on the long-term impact that we're having on people by charging them with crimes.
Supervisor Wojciechowski.
I do support this, and I would echo Supervisor Brooks. And I think this does contribute to the conversation we were having during the budget session about how our prisons are being overpopulated. A lot of them have to do with maybe not just in Winnebago County, but all around nonviolent crimes. I would like to see those numbers that Supervisor Norton brought up to see how many people would be affected by this. But I think just in general, lowering these penalties would be beneficial. And you know, it's a lot of stress on people getting these fines.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes, I have to agree with our other two representatives that spoke in favor of this bill. The only thing that I have on this, and I'll vote in favor of it, but I would like to see that being related to medical marijuana possession where there would be no fines, fees, or anything like that.
Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That has failed. Resolution number 218-11-2017. Oppose Senate Bill 54 probation revocation. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move for the approval of resolution number 218-11-2017.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Haig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask again where this came from.
Another county?
Did they send a copy of Senate Bill 54?
Yes, they did.
Do you know who the author of
No,
Senate?
I don't.
I mean,
I will tell you, I did not bring any of that tonight. If you wanted that, you should have looked it up.
I'll look it up right now.
Thank
But
you.
I would think that if we're going to be talking about these in a legislative committee, that we would know as much as we can about these when we bring them to the county board.
Supervisor Lautenschlager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have discussion on this in the legislative committee, and one of the reasons why we oppose this resolution is basically because it's going to bring more charges onto the counties, because these probation revocations that are going to spend time in the county, in the jails, aren't going to be in the back of the prisons, they're going to be back in the county jails. So the state's saying, all right, we want to put these probation holds sitting in jails until their case comes up, but they're not going to keep them, they're going to keep them in the county jails. So we have to keep track of these guys. So that's the reason why we oppose it, because it's going to cost the counties more by the state doing this.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question, if I might. You said it was opposed at legislative, but it looked like the vote was 13-0. I'm curious.
Right, it was to oppose it.
To oppose it.
Oh, not to oppose the resolution?
Right, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the points I made in the legislative committee meeting was that this kind of thing seems to be against innocent until proven guilty. So if you just charge somebody with a crime and then revoke their probation, send them right back to jail or county jail or wherever it's going to be, it's like due process is being vacated. So I am going to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually against this resolution because in the past, since the legislative committee meeting, I've talked to two people I know who, one for 17 years, one for 12 years, as probation officers and a probation superintendent. And the problem that they have, not so much in this area, but in other parts of the state, Milwaukee especially, that when they have people out on probation and they commit another crime, and that there may be several weeks, if not a few months, before they're tried. And by holding, the probation is given based on the fact that they're going to mind their P's and Q's. And in most cases where these people are being arrested for a second crime, it's a matter of being convicted, but the fact is that they had already committed a crime that they're on probation for. So holding them as a result of probation, violation of their probation,
is probably the only way to ensure to keep them off the street.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to let the board know, and Sue, I misvoted at the last vote at 217. I hit yes, I meant to put down no. So if you would change that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? No. We'll vote by our little iPad. That passed. It failed. Resolution number 21911, 2017. Oppose sections 52 and 53 of Assembly Bill 456 and Senate Bill 374 relating to vehicle registration fees. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number 21911, 2017.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? One no. Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. That passed? That passed. Resolution 22011, 2017. This is the corrected one that I mentioned before. It's on your desk. Authorize the hiring of Bolt Technical Services to perform the architectural engineering work related to the capital project design the Winnebago County-based residential facility. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask your approval of resolution number 22011-2017, and just mention to you on line 18 where it says Bolt Technical Services, $129,600. My understanding at the Facilities Committee was that there were 4 or 5 bidders. They started at $129,600 and went up over $300,000. Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see that the committee vote on this for the Property, Facilities and Property Management Committee was 4-1. Could the person opposing this share with us, share with the board their opposition in committee?
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my questions and remarks to the executive earlier represent my opinion of the project. I didn't support it initially, and I think it would be hypocritical of me to support the ongoing aspects of the building of this facility if I'm not in support of the project in its totality. Thank you.
Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to pretty much say the same thing Mr. Haig is saying. I have not supported this from the beginning, and I think it's not really the right thing to do. So, yeah, I'm going to be consistent in my not supporting it. I won't support it tonight either. Thank you.
Thank you. Vote by our little iPad. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment. You understand that we're not talking about any money tonight because the money's already been appropriated for this. So all we're talking about is who we're selecting to do the work. And I would just suggest that if you want to vote no, you can go ahead and vote no. You'll still have an opportunity after this is done to vote no on the money for the $3 million project. Pardon me? I don't know.
I thought it was one.
Okay, vote.
Trying to be consistent, sir. Thank you.
We'll vote by our little iPads. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Supervisor Roble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we adjourn until Tuesday, December 18th at 6 p.m.
Thank you. We are adjourned.